Hey yarn friends, welcome back to LlamaMamaKayla's Yarn Tube. So today I'm going to be making this little Frankenstein doll for a Halloween character, and you can see he stands up and he's real easy to make. You can make him in one sitting, no problem. I do have him weighted so that he stands up, and it's just a quick little make. And I hope you will join me and make one also. And I'd love to see your pictures online if you do. And I plan to make some more Halloween characters. So come back and watch for more videos. Thanks for watching. Let's get started. Okay, so before we begin this project, I would like to say that I'm not professional. I'm not trying to be professional. I'm just loom knitting and just sharing with you guys what I'm making. If you want to follow along and make the same thing, you're more than welcome, but I'm showing you how I made this little Frankenstein guy. I do not pay anyone to edit my videos. They are what they are. So saying all that, now we will talk about what we're going to use. In this project, we're using the 12 peg flower loom. You'll need your loom pick, a tapestry needle. I'm using black yarn, purple yarn, green yarn, and gray. This is Craft Smart. These two are Craft Smart, and this one is, I believe, Red Heart Super Saver. And also, I'm going to be using this weighted washer. This is about 1 3/4 inch. It's not quite 2 inches. So I'm going to be using that in the bottom of my Frankenstein to give it a little balance and a little weight at the bottom. In the project I had done like this before, I think I might have used 2. But for this one, I'm going to use 1 and just see how that works. You could also use those aquarium rocks or those bag of those clear rocks that you can get at Dollar Tree. You could use something like that, or you don't have to put anything at all if you choose to. You don't have to. Okay, so we're going to get started with this, and I'm going to start with purple. And I'm going to find my working yarn and just pull some yarn out. What I'm going to do is start with a drawstring cast on. Okay, so any of these stitches, the cast ons, the bind off, and any of the stitches, I do have video tutorials on my channel explaining in slow motion, you know, how to do those videos, how to do those stitches or whatever. So I'm not going to go in great detail about any of the stitches or cast on and cast off. You do have the ability to slow this video down, like really slow. If you hit that gear button, you can do that. And it might be easier to follow along. So I'm just going to work along and try not to make this video like, 2 hours long. So I'm just going to kind of speed through it. I'm doing a drawstring cast on. I did a slip knot. I put on my anchor peg. And I'm going in between my first and my last peg. And I'm going to zigzag between all the pegs. In and out. In and out. So every other peg should have yarn across it. And for this, then I'm going to I went behind peg 1, and then the rest I'm just laying across all the way down to the last peg. And then every other peg has yarn on it, so I'm going to pull the bottom loop up over the top loop and over the peg. And I'm going to take my working yarn there and just wrap it around my anchor peg to kind of hold on to it. And there is nothing on peg 1 so far. So every other peg has 2 yarns. Just bring the bottom one up over the top yarn and top of the peg. Okay, so that is our drawstring. So now we're ready to get started with our project for row 1. Okay, we're going to lay this yarn across peg 1. This is the first yarn to go on that peg, and across peg 2. So we're not doing anything with peg 1 at the moment, but we will on the next round. So this is peg 1, row 1, sorry. And we're just going to U-knit. That means we just took our yarn, kind of held it in a U shape, not real tight, it's loose. I'm not like just stretching, pulling it hard. It's very loosely and comfortable laying there. If you make it really tight, your stitches are going to get super tight and you're going to have trouble lifting them over the pegs. So it's just laying there comfortably. And we're going to do that on every peg all the way around. And this is called U-knit. I've heard some people recently call it U-wrap. I've always just called it U-knit. Let me get my yarn out of the way. Okay, so see how quickly we almost finished row 1. And I do want to show you as we start row 2, I'm going to slightly push my yarn down. And on row 2 is the first time we're going to go over on peg 1. Okay, and then we're just going to continue to go all the way around. We're going to do this for 6 rows in total. This is row 2, so do this until you have went around 6 rows. Okay, I have completed 6 rows of the U-knit. And I'm going to take my anchor peg slip knot off and just push that into the center and pull it down through the inside of the loom. And if you want to, you don't have to do this, but you can just pull that a little bit and see. It shows you how it's going to close. So we have 6 rows of U-knit. So our next stitch is going to be a round of purl. Pull my yarn out a little. Okay, so to purl, we hold our yarn below our loop that's on the peg, reach down and grab the yarn, pull it up to form a loop, and then just pop that off the peg and the loop you formed to put back onto the peg. Okay, I'll do one more just so you can see. Pull the yarn up, pop it all off, and take that loop and put on the peg the new loop. Okay, so we're going to do a quick row of purls. All right, we're almost finished with this row. We have 2 more. Okay, so we have our 1 row of purl. Next, we are going to do U-knit. So we remember how to do that. Just bring your yarn around. Hold it there comfortably, loosely, not tight, but just comfortably. And bring your loop over the top and over the peg. That is U-knit. And we are going to do 10 rows of purple U-knits. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording and continue to do 10 rows. This is row 1 for this 10 rows set. I'll meet you back when I have done 10 rows. Okay, I completed 10 rows of U-knit. So to recap what we have done, we did 6 rows of U-knit, 1 row of purl, and 10 rows of U-knit. So now I'm going to cut my yarn, and I'm going to put my purple off to the side, and I'm going to get black. So I'm going to tie in with my black, and my yarn is on the last peg. So I'm going to lay my black down before the last peg, just lay my yarn over it, tie my black yarn into a knot, and I'm going to push this all the way down to the peg, and then I'm going to tie my purple and black together. I'm going to do it twice, and then sometimes I'll tie it to the working yarn also. Alright, and we can snip our 2 tails off. Alright, so now we have our black yarn on, and that is on our last peg, so we're just going to bring it over to the first peg, and all this will just kind of stuff inside. Bring it over to the first peg, and we're going to U-knit. All the way around, and we are actually going to do 10 rows of the black. So I will meet you after I have completed 10 rows. Okay, I finished 10 rows of the black U-knit, so I'm going to cut my working yarn, and I'm going to get my green. I'm just going to make sure my green is tight, and then I'm going to tie my 2 tails together a couple of times. Snip off the tails. Okay, so now we're ready to work with our green. And this is going to be our face. So we're going to come straight over to the first peg and U-knit. We are going to U-knit 7 rows for the face. So if you want to continue up your 7 rows, and I will meet you back when we have 7 rows of green. Okay, I finished 7 rows of the green for my face portion of this Frankenstein, so I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving enough tail that I'll be able to tie with, and I'm going to go back to my black yarn for the hair. And so I'm just going to tie my black yarn in. Alright, and then I'm going to snip off these 2 tails. Alright, and now we're going to just take our yarn. It's behind the last peg. We're just going to go over to the first peg and U-knit. We're going to U-knit all the way around for 7 rounds. And this is round 1. So we're going to do 7 rounds in total of the black for the hair. And then I'll meet you back when I have finished my 7 rounds. Okay, I finished 7 rounds of the black to represent the hair. So I'm going to take my working yarn and I'm going to go all the way around the loom, just a little over 1 round. Snip my yarn. Okay, I'm going to do a drawstring bind off. So to do that, we just go down through the loop, pick up that yarn, and pull it all the way out. We're going to pull it through each loop all the way around the loom. Okay, we're at the last peg. So I'm going to just pop all the stitches off the pegs. We'll see how our little Frankenstein guy is shaping up. Alright, now we're just going to stretch him out, so we stretch our stitches. If you have any where your knots are trying to poke through, just go through on the inside and pull them to the inside. Okay, so this is our head, the face and the hair. So what I'm going to do is get a little stuffing. I forgot to mention at the beginning that you will need some polyfill. So I have some polyfill here, and I'm not going to overstuff. If you stuff it so much that you can see the stuffing, you've overstuffed, and you need to pull that out and put about half of it back in. So I'm just trying to fill the head right now. We might add some more from the other side. But right now I'm just trying to get the head kind of rounded. Always fluff your polyfill so you can get air up in there and get it fluffed up good. See, you don't want your stuffing to show, so kind of be careful with that. Now on the black, some of the white will show through a little bit, but try not to like stretch those stitches too much with it. Okay, I might put a tiny more just in the tip top. I want to keep it rounded shape. All right. Now going from the other side, I'm just going to push that up in there. You can see, you can't really see my stuffing. So that's the way you want it to look. If you can see stuffing, take it out. Just put small bits in at a time and pack it up in there. You do want this project firm, but not overstuffed. So you can see that you don't see my stuffing. If your stitches are stretched out so much that you see the stuffing, you have it stuffed too full. So you could take that out and put about half of it back in. Alright, so now I have my Frankenstein stuffed, and I'm going to, it's time to close it off, but I'm going to put this washer in here, and I'm placing it in right at that purl row. We want that washer to kind of sit in that purl row. And I'm going to close it off and then just kind of test it and see how it sits, what it might need. Kind of manipulate it around. See if you think you need more stuffing. Tell you what I want to do. I'm not going to tie it off yet because I might add a little more stuffing. I'm going to decide which is my front and back of my head, the face part. I think this is my back. So this is my front. So I'm going to take a little bit of that green. I'm just going to cut some and thread my tapestry needle. Okay, and at that back where I can see that I joined before, I'm going to weave in and out of that first row of the green stitches. Can you see what I'm doing there? I'm just kind of weaving in and out, and I'm going to pull through and leave some tail. I'm going to hold that tail with my finger, and I'm going to continue to weave in and out. Okay. So I want to tie that really tight to form the head. That makes the neck. I'm just going to do that a couple of times. Just tie it off a couple of times and then look at him and make sure he is good. And then I'm going to take my 2 yarn tails, and I'm not going to snip them right here because you'll be able to see the tails on the outside. So I'm going to thread them in my needle, and I'm going to go up at the base of the neck and just kind of come out the side of the head close to the hair. I'm just going to pull them through right here. Snip the tail really close to the head, but don't get in my yarn, and then the tails will just pop inside the head. So we don't have to deal with the tails. Okay, so we need to make a face and arms for him. So I'm going to make the arms next and put them on and then put the face. I still haven't decided if I'm going to add any more stuffing. I think he might need a little more. Oh, here's some. So I'm just adding a little more stuffing in there, and then I'm going to put my the big washer back in here. Okay, so now we need to make arms for our Frankenstein doll. And we're going to make 2 arms. So I'm going to show you how to make one, and then you can make the other one. So we put our slip knot on our anchor peg, and we're going to make a drawstring cast on with 6 pegs. So on the last peg, wrap around, come back on top of the 5th peg, and just bring your yarn down. And you can just come back over 1 peg and kind of circle that around to secure it there a little bit. So just take you have 2 pegs that have 2 strands of yarn. Just take the bottom strands and go up over the top. Okay, so that is our cast on, drawstring cast on. Excuse me. Now for peg row 1, we're just going to bring this on around peg 1 and come up on peg 2. And U-knit. And again, I'm not holding this tight. It's very loosely held there. Okay, that is row 2. So now for row 3, wrap this last peg again. Oops. I'm going to catch that loop and get it back on there before I lose it. Okay, that's row 2. Now for row 3. Again, I'm wrapping this first peg again. Okay, that is row 3. And now we're ready for row 4. And this is the last row of the green. Okay, so that is row 4, and we can take our slip knot off and bring it down to the middle. Okay, so we need to cut our working yarn, and we're going to leave a bit of a tail to tie on to our new black yarn. And we will use the drawstring tail to sew up the hand. And this tail is to tie on with the black. And with the black, we are going to leave a bit of a tail to sew up the black arm. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to tie these 2 together a couple times. And then I'm going to clip off the green tail and leave the black tail because it's going to be used for sewing, and the green tail will not. Okay, so now we need to U-knit our first row of black for the arm. Uh-oh. Put our green stitch back on there. Okay. All right. Okay, this is row 1 of the black yarn for the arm, and we are going to do 10 rows of this, and I want to give you a little bit of a tip so you can keep up with what row you are on. The even rows go this direction, the odd rows go this direction. So row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to it to do 10 rows of the U-knit, and remember to always come and get your first peg on each row going both directions, and I'll meet you back up when I have completed the 10 rows. Okay, I have completed 10 rows of the black U-knit. So we have 4 rows of green U-knit and 10 rows of black U-knit. And I'm going to leave a long tail for this arm. Alright, and we are going to do a drawstring cast off. Uh-oh. It's awkward for me going in this direction. Alright, and then just pop all your loops off of your pegs. Alright, and then stretch out your stitches. Find your first tail and close up your hand, and then take your tail and close your arm up. Then what we're going to do is take our tail. I didn't know if I left enough tail down there. I did, so I can go ahead and snip this off and kind of push that to the inside. So we're going to take our tapestry needle and sew up our hand. Just grab your stitches, grab some from the other side. And just do that all the way up your green. Just grab some on the edge. There's no certain stitch you have to grab. Just grab some. You're just wanting to close it up. Okay. Now I secured that. So I'm just going to take my needle and run it through the hand and snip it off. Now we need to make 2 arms. So for this arm, you can take that tail that you left and sew the arm up, and you don't need another tail on this arm. On the next arm, we will leave a tail for sewing it onto our Frankenstein. And I can't see these black stitches at all, so I'm just poking. Okay, so I just have this kind of sandwiched up here, and I'm just poking my needle through because I can't see. Okay. And then I'm just going to go through a stitch somewhere, come back through my loop before it closes to kind of secure that, and then just poke my needle into the center of the arm, and I'm just going to come out the other end there, not pulling it too tight because you'll change the shape of your arm. And I'm just going to snip this off. So that's our first arm. So we need to make one more arm. Okay, so once you have your two arms made, look at your Frankenstein doll, decide what's your back and your front. This is going to be my front. So I know I want my arms here on the side, up like at the shoulders. So I'm just going to place pins in there and see. Nope, that's way off. And it's hard for me to see black yarn, so I think that looks about right. So what I'm going to do is take my arm with the tail, and if you didn't leave a tail, then just tie on a piece of yarn and snip the little end and keep the long tail. And I'm going to go in right there, and I'm just going to wiggle my needle all the way through and come out the other side. And then I can move my needle, my pins. Okay, when I come out this other side, I'm just going to stick this arm on and push my needle through. And then I'm going to go back through this arm, but not the same place my yarn came out. I'm going to go back through closer to the shoulder, try to go in there, wiggle the needle through, come out the other side and come through that arm again. Okay, and then kind of pull it tight, not so tight that you change the shape. Okay, and I know you can't really see because the yarn is black, but I'm going to just tie this off on here. I'm going to go through a stitch, come back through my yarn to tie it off tightly. And I may do that twice. If I can get it. I'm kind of doing this on the underside of the arm part, or the back side. Okay, and now I'm just going to take my needle and poke it through. And I cannot see these stitches, so I don't know exactly what I'm doing. I'm just poking it through and coming down somewhere on the underside of the arm. And then I'm just going to snip my tail, and that will pop up in the arm part. Okay, now that I've misshapen my head and all that, wrestling with that. Okay, so here's my arms. Now we can work on his face. I think I'm happy with the head. I don't think it needs any more stuffing. So I'm going to go ahead and close off my head. I'm going to pull it tight and then just poke my needle in. And somewhere here I'm going to just poke through to tie off. I'm going to thread it back on my needle. And actually this may be enough yarn that I can do my eyes and such. If it was not enough yarn, I would just tie this off and snip it and take another piece of yarn and come in from the back side coming up to do the eyes. But I think I have enough yarn here that I'm going to first decide where my eyes are. I think they're there. There. And maybe something like that. Remember, he is Frankenstein, so he's supposed to look a little off. They look kind of close together, but in that space is not quite. Okay, I think right here. So I have it in one of the V stitches, the V's, an empty row, and then a V. And I think I have it in the right place. So I'm just going to go through and come out right beside this. And I'm going to go in, but I'm going to go ahead and do my needle over to come out right on the other side of this one. So there's my first eye and my second eye. And I want to come down. Let's see, I'm just going to go out the back. Okay, so there we have our two eyes. Now we need to do the scar on him. And I don't know if it goes on this side or this side. I'm just going to kind of put it right there. So I'm just going to kind of go back in through here. Maybe come out right here. Guide my needle to come out that same place. And just do this little scar. I don't think that looks really much like the scar, but that's to represent his scar. And now I'm just going to take my needle and go out the back of the hair. Maybe you can do a better scar. Okay, and so Frankenstein does have these little knobs here, and I'm going to, for my knobs, I'm just going to take a long piece of the gray, and I'm just going to come right here at the close to the end of his neck. I cut my gray like really long, but that's okay. And I'm going to tie a knot. I'm going to tie another knot. And I'm going to tie another knot. And then I'm going to take this yarn and thread it back onto my needle. And I'm just going to go out somewhere the back of the head. And that is fine with me. Now just pop that in, it'll go inside the head. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just to do a little knobby there. Okay, just going to tie a couple of knots. It'll be about 3. Thread my needle, and I'm just going to go in right there and come out the back side. Okay, we'll try to stretch these out a little bit, and then clip off these tails, and I'll just use my needle to kind of stuff that into there, the tails. Okay, so now just kind of shape up your head. We have a knobby here and a little knob there. So alright, and I'm satisfied with the way mine is sitting, so I'm going to go ahead and close off the bottom. And I'm just going to tie that off like 2 times. If you have small children that's going to be playing with it, you may want to tie that off a few more times. And then I'm just going to come off to the side there and then snip my yarn. So I think that's our Frankenstein. See how well you like him. See if he stands up. You can kind of shape his head, move his arms around. So there is our Frankenstein, and I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you can make this and enjoy him for this Halloween season, and I will be back with more characters soon.